This episode of SESSLERS Something is brought to you by 23andMe. All right, just so you know, I am coming to you on July 3rd, because what you are watching right now, I am currently in the country of Russia for Microsoft's Imagine Cup. Also, I was gonna, take a day off with the 4th of July and the day that preceded. So if something huge has happened and I'm not responding to it, don't freak out. We know what happened last time when I said nothing big had happened, and then lo and behold, something big happened. So what I want to talk about today, this just came up this morning here on Wednesday, was the announcement from Double Fine that their original Kickstarter project needs more funding. And that looks like one of the ways that Tim Schafer and the team are going to go about getting the additional funding is to start to put the game out in its, unfinished form. The revenue generated from that will help fund the finishing up of it. That's an interesting tactic, and I don't want to go sort of after Double Fine or anything like that. I will honestly say I consider Tim Schafer to be a wonderful person in the industry and a friend. But this really kind of cuts to the heart of some of the issues I've been feeling with regard to Kickstarter ever since all the attention surrounded it with the funding of the Double Fine project about a year and a half ago. It was so exciting at that time and sort of liberating. It was this kind of like middle finger to kind of the regular studio system that had so much creative control and tended to really pull a lot of character out of the games. And then say in the case of a game that was just fine, like Brutal Legend, mismarketed and mismanaged. It was presented to so many people as an action game when it actually turned out to be this very interesting strategy game. That really has become an issue not just for Double Fine, but for other very creative people that just don't seem to fit in comfortably with the large corporate needs of a big publisher. That was kind of the old Kickstarter story that kind of bled into the Ouya, which really was positioned as this sort of revolution, this kind of like, let's take the power back. We're going to have an Android gaming system that's a lot more open, and we can really kind of stick it to the Microsofts and Sonys out there. Let's go forward by a year and a half. There needs to be more money to fund an already overfunded Kickstarter project for Double Fine. The Ouya has come out. It is not being met with the warmest of embraces. I think there's a lot of questions about its longevity, about the ability that it can get that content onto it that is of high quality to maintain that interest. So what has happened? I think that, as I've said before, kind of with my Xbox One and PS4, we kind of bought into a story. It was a really fun story. I bought into it too. And the practical reality of it is making games is a little bit more complicated. And this idea of throwing money at something and then it's all going to work out and we're going to kind of have a warm embrace and say, like, look, we've revolutionized everything. Yeah, things are a lot more complicated. It's kind of like politics, you know? You like having a sausage, you do not want to know how it's actually made. And that's what's becoming laid bare through a lot of this Kickstarter. I don't like the idea that people are throwing money at something and there isn't a full accountability about where that money is going. I've seen some projects I think are overfunded and the product that comes out doesn't seem to be representative of the money that was actually raised. In other cases, I think that by putting a low cost on it, it looks like something that we can all race to and we can hit that goal, when in all practical reality, game development becomes expensive. There's always hidden costs. There's always kind of a creep of the designs that go into it. I think it has gotten a little bit out of control. I think, there's a lot of companies, Double Fine included, that are doing Kickstarters to raise funds for a second game before the first one has been put out. Obviously, the timing with regard to them has been a little bit, I would say, questionable. I think that we're losing confidence in what Kickstarter can do, and I think we need to look at Kickstarter in a different way. I don't think crowdsourcing the money to make a game is really going to be making games. A way of looking at it in maybe a more pared down way would actually be, hey, let's raise money to get a prototype so that you can go out and find private financing that is more representative of what is going to be necessary to get a game made in an independent fashion and find its way to the market. I think the other thing that is really disturbing about Kickstarter, and this is one of the reasons why I do not tweet out Kickstarter projects. A lot of you guys come to me, you want me to help support something. I'm not confident doing it because it's ephemera, it's just promises, there's just nothing that's really confident there. Maybe if Kickstarter allowed for something where you can only reach the goal, and that if you do somehow raise more money in the window of opportunity for the Kickstarter goal, everybody's contribution is then prorated. That would create some discipline to really understand what the budgeting is going to be for the game, so there is something a little more transparent, honest, and thought through when people go out there to raise cash. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of crowdfunding altogether, but I think that we are losing a sense of trust between the enthusiasm of the people that want to donate money with absolutely no investment and the understanding that with that money there comes responsibility, even if it isn't monetary return, because what it's supposed to be is a game we all want to play. All right, we're gonna take a moment for our sponsor 23andMe. Have you ever wondered what you might learn from your DNA? 23andMe, it actually enables anyone to explore their own DNA. It comes from a saliva analysis of approximately 1 million data points in your DNA. If you take on this service, you're gonna receive over 200 personalized reports from your DNA that cover health risks, physical traits, carrier status for conditions that can be passed on to your children, and much more. This may sound intimidating, but the whole process is quite simple. First, you buy a DNA kit online, and then you mail in your saliva sample. And after a few weeks, you receive your 200 health, trait, and ancestry reports. So, what are you waiting for? Learn more about yourself. So check it out at 23andme.com/Sessler to learn more. All right, our question today is from Tyler Barrett. I guess this is the second rephrasing of something because he felt he didn't do a good job the first time. I like the way he's phrased it now. As this industry matures and takes on greater cultural standing, the preservation and maintenance of the medium becomes increasingly important. What do you think of the steps that have been taken in this generation, HD remakes, PS1 classics, and Virtual Console, and what kind of steps do you think will be taken or should be taken moving forward? Do you think maybe we should all go buy Retro N3? Those are the players that play NES, SNES, and Genesis games. This whole idea of archival, or trying to get an archive of all the games that have been made is something that I'm very passionate about and very concerned about. Tyler, I understand that you're looking at it from a consumer perspective, that you want to be able to have access to play these games. I look at it as we need to make sure that there are copies of these games as they originally can be played in good condition, that is being held somewhere that can preserve them because they don't, if it's a cartridge, they don't deteriorate over time. This is for historical study. This is for academic study. I really do believe that games are worthy of that, but if we don't have them to study, well then that becomes a little bit challenging, I would say. There is an organization, there's the History of Video Games Museum, there's also an organization that's up in upstate New York that are really trying to do this. I'll see if I can get some links underneath here for you guys to look into it. This is something of great concern that I think the ESA and other organizations within the video game industry, that we have to realize that yes, this is consumer, yes, there is a disposable quality to the notion of games, but we need to preserve our history. We need to look back, understand how far we've come, where we can go, and that some of these games, they're still fun to play.